Hi, and welcome to the video. Here I'm going to talk a little bit about blended learning and how blended learning is really related to the way we design various learning experiences and instruction. Now, in order to explain this concept of blended learning, I'm going to actually use a very simple model in a diagram to help illustrate this. So if you think about blended learning as happening in four quadrants, and these are on two separate scales here. So at the top we have virtual, and at the bottom we have physical. And these are different types of spaces. So for example, a virtual space might be a online course. It could be a online video on YouTube, something like that. A physical space might be a classroom, an office, something like that. Now also on this in this diagram, we're going to plot formal and informal spaces. So on the right, we're going to have formal, and on the left, we're going to have informal. Okay, so what we have here is essentially a diagram that outlines how blended learning might occur in a various organization or how that happens. Now, as educators, when we go about designing blended learning experiences, we have to think about how different points connect. So, for example, if we have something up here in the top right quadrant, which is virtual space and formal spaces, we might think about that as being an online class or something along those lines, where it's a formal instruction that is occurring. Now, in the formal space and physical space realm, we have a simple classroom instruction. So we can plot that point. This would be something very similar that many of us are familiar with. You go into a physical classroom, a lecture might happen, or a discussion might happen, something like that. On the top left, we have virtual space and informal spaces. If we plot an example point there, these might be like a social media online community, something along those lines, where the space is online, but it's also an informal type learning environment. And in the bottom left, if we plot an example point there, a good example here might be the water cooler. It might be a learning commons that many institutions have, where learners can go and work collaboratively together. It's in a physical space, and they can do that. Now, our goal and our challenge, rather, in many cases as educators, is to connect these various spaces together. So, for example, as we do that, we might think about how might we connect experiences in an online class with a more informal social media experience, or how might we connect the use of social media in informal spaces that are physical, such as a learning commons. Or we might think about how do we integrate classroom learning experiences and augment them by using things that are informal and physical, like a learning commons. Or probably the most common connection point is how do we integrate online elements with classroom elements. And coincidentally, the point, this particular example that is right in here, is probably the most common example of blended learning when we start to read the literature, but it only represents a very small component of the actual totality of what is happening from a blended learning standpoint. So here in this video, I wanted to give just a simple example and share with you how to use a model to help you begin to understand how we connect different types of learning spaces, whether it be a virtual or physical space, or formal or informal space, together, because blended learning is really looking at the collective whole and how we begin to connect all these different learning experiences together in smart ways.